With a machete in hand and a hockey mask stuck to his face, you might think that Rick is just another serial killer from a cheesy slasher film. But as the kids these days are saying,
never judge a book by its cover.
This is the story of a young couple being in the wrong place at the wrong time, forced to go up against the nastiest house this side of Amityville. Now is the time to look away if you don't want to know what happens next, because today we're going to review the endings of the Splatterhouse trilogy. This is 23 Endings, the early years. Don't you hate it when your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere? Well, be thankful your sub-story has nothing on what Rick and Jennifer went through. After having car troubles, the couple runs to a nearby mansion in hopes of using the phone and getting out of the rain. Little did Rick know that Jennifer was about to get abducted and a supernatural mask would get stuck to his face until he broke the curse. Alone and afraid, Rick fights his way out of a poorly maintained underground prison, into the sewers, past all these spooky mirrors, into the church, and through a room that looks like internal organs, until finally meeting up with the melty-faced demon in front of a forest fire. And what do you get for this trouble? This terrible ending. I'm not gonna lie, this ending freaked me out more than any of the boss fights. As a kid, I genuinely thought the dude's head exploded. And what about Jennifer? I mean, I know that she supposedly turned into a demon back in the 5th level, but wasn't the house just messing with Rick? The good news is that Splatterhouse has an extra scene after the credits, just like one of those Marvel movies. I was sure that this was going to be the moment that Jennifer showed up and everything was back to normal. This is just a clip of the mask putting itself back together, teasing a sequel. That brings us to Splatterhouse 2, which was released 3 years later on the Sega Genesis. This saw Rick return to the haunted house and save Jennifer from a living nightmare. It sends us on a straightforward journey through a lot of familiar locations. Rick gets trapped in an elevator, fights through the swamp, runs from Cthulhu, discovers a bunch of genetically engineered monsters, gets trapped in whatever this is, and then flees from a giant made out of electricity. It all ends with Rick punching a bat demon thing and saving Jennifer. Sure, it's another sequel ending, but at least Rick and Jennifer are finally together again. Yeah, it took Rick a couple of tries, and there was a bunch of time where he went back to living his life, but at least they're back together again. Oh wait, there's a twist ending setting up Splatterhouse 3, of course. So here's where things start to get interesting. not the gameplay, that stays mostly the same, but the final installment in the Splatterhouse trilogy ups the ante with 4 different endings. The story picks up 5 years after the last game, and things are looking up for Rick and Jennifer. The couple is now married and recently welcomed a son named David into the world. They've even managed to amass a sizable nest egg, thanks in large part to some luck on Wall Street. Everything seems to be finally back to normal for this young couple. Roll credits, the end. Of course, we all know this is a Splatterhouse game, so Rick isn't gonna get off that easy. The troubles start when he decides to buy a mansion. Suddenly, he's having conversations with an evil mask that's been haunting his dreams. Rick is told that he must don the mask one more time to fight the monsters that have invaded his mansion. I mean, it's a Splatterhouse game. What'd you expect? So Rick fights through a bunch of stages and discovers that the haunted mansion is planning on using David's latent psychic abilities to tap into the power of something called the Darkstone. He'll eventually make his way to the evil one, only to then realize that the demonic force that he needs to go after is none other than the mask that's been causing him so much trouble. This sets up one final epic showdown between a very pissed off Rick and a giant floating masked head. Now, if everything has gone wrong up to this point and Rick has failed to save both his son and wife, you get this crummy ending. Now, if you rescue David but fail to save Jennifer, you get this version. Now, let's say you rescued Jennifer, but couldn't get David in time. This is the ending you'll see. And finally, let's say that Rick managed to save both his wife and son and defeated the flying masked demon monster. This is the happiest Splatterhouse ending you'll probably ever see. The mask is finally destroyed, the sun is out, and evil has once again been defeated. The credits roll, and everything is good in the world. You won't find a twist ending here, because this is the conclusion to Rick's decade-long fight with the mask. Well, that is until 2010, when Namco decided to reboot the franchise and put Rick through another house of horrors. But we're not here to talk about the reboot, so as far as I'm concerned, Rick lived happily ever after. The end.